Unbelievable sacrifice. Young girl chooses books over food, inspiring a millionaire's Life-Chang. In the quiet town of Maplewood, where the sun shone relentlessly, Lila Harper made a choice that would shake her world. She chose a book over food. The flickering lights in her small home echoed the flickering hope in her heart. 10 years old and already steeped in a different kind of poverty, Lila felt the weight of the world rest upon her thin shoulders. As her mother worked 2 jobs, chasing the relentless tick of the clock, Lila found refuge in the local library, where the smell of aged paper and adventure wrapped around her like a warm hug. After long days at school, where the laughter of her classmates twisted around her like an invisible noose, she would rush to the library. It was there that she could travel to distant lands filled with magic and heroes, even as her stomach rumbled in protest. Her closet was a museum of faded hand-me-downs, and her lunches were always a mere smattering of crumbs. Nothing compared to the thrill she felt as she ventured into worlds unknown, where she was never the target of mockery. But one day, Lila's heart sank. With just a few coins clinking in her pocket, she stood before a worn-out book that promised escape. The pages beckoned her, whispering secrets of adventure and friendship. But as she clutched it tightly, she could feel the pangs of hunger pulling her back to reality. The choice was unbearable. She could almost hear her mother's weariness creeping back into her thoughts. As if fate was watching, a pair of bright blue eyes spotted her from the corner of the library. Miles Montgomery, the new boy in town, had just moved in with his family of millionaires. When he witnessed Lila's choice, his heart skipped a beat. She chose a book over food, and he had to know why. Their worlds collided that day. "Why would you spend your last coins on a book?" His voice came out in curiosity, not accusation. Lila's cheeks burned, heat rushing to her face as she stammered an answer. It's where my dreams live." Their newfound friendship blossomed through shared stories and laughter. Yet Lila felt the tugging of loyalty to her mother and the weight of their circumstances looming. Miles seemed oblivious to the struggles she faced while grappling with the stark reality of his privilege. She feared losing everything. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. But just as she began to embrace the friendships stirring within them, the town buzzed with whispers. People noticed the odd pairing of a wealthy boy and a ragged girl. The tension thickened, muddled with jealousy and fear of the unknown. Lila's heart raced. Could their friendship, pure and innocent, survive the prejudice of Maplewood? She stood on the precipice of a tumultuous choice. Conform to what was expected or dare to dream. When moments of hope sparkled ever so briefly, Lila knew her story was about to unfold. Would she fight for her future, or would the weight of the world tear her away from her dreams forever? Amidst the whispers and glances that followed her every move, Lila felt more isolated than ever. The weight of their stares pressed down like shadows, darkening the bright spark of her friendship with Miles. Each time he laughed at a joke she told, or reached for her hand during their adventures through the library, she couldn't shake the fear that it was all too good to be true. The very next day, Lila found herself staring at the entrance of the library, fighting an internal battle. Should she go in? Could she endure the looks of pity mixed with derision from the townsfolk? With every ounce of courage in her small frame, she opened the door and stepped inside. The familiar scent of old pages welcomed her, battling against the insecurity that churned in her stomach. Miles was already there, thumbing through a thick novel, his blue eyes lighting up when he caught sight of her. "Lila," he said, beaming, "I saved a spot for you." Then, as if to punctuate the moment, a group of older kids stumbled in, their laughter slicing through the warm air. Lila's heart sank as she heard one of them jeering. "What's she doing here? Shouldn't she be looking for food instead of books?" Lila's cheeks burned. She wanted to shrink away, to disappear behind the rows of shelves, but Miles remained unfazed. He stood tall, facing the group. "You don't know her," he said firmly. "Lila's one of the smartest people I know." The ridicule hung in the air for a second too long. Lila's heart fluttered, a mix of gratitude and embarrassment. Tears pricked her eyes, but she blinked them back. With Miles beside her, perhaps she could stand firm. "Let us go to the reading nook," he urged, almost pushing her gently toward the back of the room. They settled into an alcove, hidden from judgment yet exposed to the magic unfolding in their storytime adventures. Days turned into weeks, and the whispers grew quieter, replaced by shared smiles and comfort. Lila and Miles unraveled each other's worlds, intertwining their dreams and fears like threads weaving through fabric. But just when life seemed to settle, a knock on Lila's door shook her from the delicate balance she had crafted. It was her mother, looking more exhausted than usual, standing in the doorway with a letter in hand. "Lila, we need to talk." In that moment, the jovial moments spent with Miles turned muted. The heavy reality of her home life bore down on her. That letter contained news that could change everything. It was from the school board, addressing her mother's applications for financial aid, detailing their struggle and notifying them of a looming decision. Feeling the weight of her mother's tired eyes, Lila swallowed hard. The possibility of moving, of being pulled away from everything she had begun to cherish, loomed over her like a dark cloud. What would this mean for her friendship with Miles? Would he still want to be friends if she became just another name on a list of kids needing help? "Mom, please." Lila's voice trembled, fear wrapping around her heart. What if we don't have a choice?" Her mother replied, the weight of her exhaustion spilling into her words as they both stood silently. Lila realized she was at another crossroad. She had fought before for her dreams, but now the stakes felt higher. Would she stand up for her future and hold tight to her friendship, or would she have to let go of everything she had fought to build? The decision hung in the air, bitter and heavy. In that electric moment, Lila knew she had to choose once again. But what she didn't expect was for Miles to walk through that door next, his presence like dawn breaking over a stormy sky, and his next words would change everything. Lila's heart raced as the door creaked open. Miles stepped in, his face bright with concern. "Lila, I came as soon as I heard." His voice was comforting, filled with warmth that made the shadows retreat just a little. "What did you hear?" Lila managed, her voice tiny against the weight of her reality. Miles glanced at her mother, his expression shifting to one of understanding. "About the letter." Lila's breath caught in her throat. "I didn't want you to worry." "I worry because I care," he replied, stepping closer. "What's in it?" Her mother shifted uncomfortably, and for a moment, Lila thought the world outside held more answers than the room they were stuck in. The walls felt claustrophobic, like they were closing in around her. "It's about money," Lila whispered, not wanting to say the words aloud. "About moving. About everything." Miles' brows knit together. "What are they saying? You're not leaving, right?" "I don't know." Lila's voice cracked, and she felt a tear slip from her eye. "This is different, Miles. If they decide against us, I might be forced to go somewhere else away from you." The room seemed to grow quieter, the air thickening between them. Miles' gaze softened, and Lila could see the wheels turning in his mind. "We can figure something out together. I don't want to lose you." "Miles, what if I let it happen?" He said it with such certainty that it made her heart flutter. "You're too important." In that moment, something shifted. Lila felt the warmth of hope battling the cold fear that had gripped her heart. She searched Miles' eyes, searching for a hint of doubt, but all she saw was fierce determination. "Miles," she started, aware of how she almost believed that everything he said could come true. "But what if they need us to pay up front for the next term?" He interjected, his thoughts racing. "What if we can create a fundraiser? We could get people to donate." She blinked in surprise. "You really think people would care enough?" "Absolutely." He leaned in closer, excitement sparkling in his blue eyes. "I see people every day, people who care about education. We just need a reason to rally." Lila felt a burst of reluctance mixed with exhilaration. "But that's a lot to take on." SNT, there's someone else, no one else matters like this. Lila. If you stay, we can keep reading together. We can build something more than friendship or just what? Lila pressed, feeling dizzy from a mix of emotions. Just this feeling, this connection. He finished quietly, brushing his thumb against his bottom lip. What if we could raise money, not just to fight against the school board, but to keep your dreams alive? Lila stared at him in awe. You'd really help me? Always, he said, his voice deepening with sincerity. We're friends, right? But what if she hesitated? This time the fear less pronounced. What if it's not enough? What if I can't rely on everyone? That's not where we start, Miles countered. We start with us, with what we can do right now. From the depths of her heart, Lila felt hope blooming like flowers in the spring. Maybe they really could fight together against all odds. But as she absorbed that thought, another pang of uncertainty nagged at her. What if they decide we have to leave anyway? She whispered, her voice barely a thread. Miles leaned closer, urgency sparking in his gaze. Then we find a way to change their minds. We don't stop fighting. Lila, you inspire me. You can inspire everyone else too. Let us prove them wrong. As they stood there, the weight of the world shifted from Lila's shoulders. If only just. But the clock ticked, and the reality of the letter loomed larger than all their dreams. Just then, Lila's phone buzzed on the table. It was a notification from the school board's website. An emergency meeting for decisions regarding financial aid. Her stomach dropped. Lila, we can't wait, Miles said as he focused on her again. Let us get started right now. In that moment of unspoken fear and resolve, Lila realized they were stepping into the unknown together. Would they be able to make their voices heard? And did she truly have what it took to inspire others? With newfound determination, Lila picked up her phone, her spirit lifting as she braced herself for what lay ahead. But as she pressed the button, doubt crept in again. Would this path lead her to lose Miles or bring them closer than ever? Her fingers hovered above the screen, heart pounding, when she heard the door creak open behind them once more, and the voice that followed sent a chill down her spine. Lila, are you in here? The voice was cold, sharp like glass. It belonged to Mr. Collins, the school board chair. He stepped into the room, eyes scanning the two kids. Miles instinctively stood in front of Lila, a protective barrier she didn't know she needed until that moment. The tension hung thick in the air. What do you want? He snapped, voice firm even as his heart raced. Mr. Collins looked taken aback, not expecting resistance. I'm here to discuss the letter. Decisions must be made and there are consequences. You both need to understand how serious this is. Lila felt her stomach churn. Serious? Is that all you care about? It's our lives you're talking about. His expression hardened, but there was a flicker of something, perhaps weariness. I get it, but you must comprehend the financial state our schools are in. It's more than just one student. We have deadlines and rules. Rules? Miles challenged. If you only followed your own rules about what is fair? The board chair interrupted. Life isn't fair, kid. It never has been. I can't promise you things that we can't deliver. Lila's heart sank. So what? You're just going to let me leave? After everything? Tears prickled at her eyes, but she fought them back. Mr. Collins sighed heavily, his demeanor softening ever so slightly. We're doing everything we can, but we have to prioritize those at risk of failing. Miles stepped forward again, this time calmer. But she is not just some number or a statistic. She is a person. She matters. Lila glanced at Miles, her heart swelling with gratitude. It was easy to forget how much their bond had grown. How he'd always been her rock. Look, Mr. Collins began, his tone shifting. I'm under pressure from the district. But there may be options if both of you are willing to advocate for this. What do you mean? Lila asked, hope daring to creep back in. Fundraising ideas. If you're committed, we can discuss a partnership with the local businesses. We need someone to lead the charge. Miles' eyes brightened, and Lila felt an electric jolt of optimism. We can do it. We will do it. She could see the enthusiasm bubbling up in him, the desire to not just sit back and watch things unravel. But then she realized the weight of what it would mean. But Mr. Collins, what if we fail? She asked, the question slipping out before she could stop herself. Then you fail together. But if you succeed, you have the chance not just to stay in school, but to inspire your community. That's a lot more than just one life. The implications were staggering. Lila bit her lip, grasping the magnitude of what was unfolding. Can we really do this? Miles asked, his voice tense with a mixture of excitement and fear. Of course we can, Lila replied, determination burning inside her. Together. As Mr. Collins nodded, a flicker of respect shone in his eyes. You have a week before the decision is made. Use it wisely. They watched him leave, the door clicking shut behind him. Lila turned to Miles, a surge of both anxiety and adrenaline rushing through her veins. That was intense, he breathed. But we can make this work, right? Yeah, we can. She answered, still trying to process all that had just happened. We'll need to talk to everyone. To get support. Let us meet up tonight, he suggested. We can brainstorm, get a plan. And maybe we can even put together a video. A wave of excitement washed over Lila. A video? Sure. Share our story. Get it out there. People want to help, they just need to see how much this matters. Lila nodded, her heart brimming with newfound purpose. Okay, this is just the start. Fear and uncertainty lingered in the back of her mind. But this feeling was different. It was like fuel glimmering, bright, ready to ignite something amazing. As the weight of the world shifted on her shoulders, she knew deep down that they were stepping into uncharted territory. But that push couldn't come without sacrifice. And what would that look like? What if this goes too far? She wondered aloud. What if we lose everything in the process? Miles took her hands in his grip firm and reassuring. Then we'll figure it out. Together. The clock was ticking, and the stakes were high. The next step was theirs. But as Lila looked into those determined blue eyes, she knew they were ready for anything. Yet even as hope swelled, unease whispered through her thoughts. What sacrifices lay ahead on this path? And what if standing up meant losing everything they had worked for? The journey had begun, but Lila was aware that the hardest part was yet to come. Lila woke up the next morning with a pit in her stomach. The sunlight streamed through her curtains, illuminating the room in a soft, warm glow. But it didn't chase away her worries. She rolled over to glance at her phone, half expecting a notification from Miles with ideas for their video. Instead, there was nothing. The silence echoed her own uncertainty, filling her head with doubts. Taking a deep breath, she swung her legs over the side of her bed. Today was the day they had to start reaching out to people. She needed to make a plan. They had to show Mr. Collins and the whole school community that they were serious by the time Lila arrived at school. The energy around her felt electric. Students buzzed with gossip and laughter, yet she felt apart from it all. The realization that it was up to them to spark a change weighed heavily in her chest. She approached the cafeteria, scanning the sea of faces for Miles. "Hey!" she shouted, waving when she spotted him sitting at their usual table. Miles looked up, his face brightening. "There you are." He picked at his lunch, a collection of half-eaten pizza crusts and a juice box. "I was hoping we could grab a quiet spot after school. I've got some ideas rolling around in my head." "Definitely," she replied, her heart lifting at the sight of his enthusiasm. "We need to brainstorm. We need everyone behind us. And a video is just the beginning. We need to rally the community." "Community," he repeated, nodding. "If we can get local businesses to support us, we might have a chance." As the morning passed, Lila and Miles moved through their classes, conversations about their plan buzzing in her mind. They would need to tap into every avenue they could. She imagined flyers, social media, maybe even a fundraiser at the next basketball game. Anything to make their voices heard. After the final bell rang, they met in the library, the air thick with the scent of old books and determination. "Okay, so what's our plan?" Miles asked, pulling out a notebook. Lila smiled, energized. "Let us tell our story first. We have to explain why this matters. We can use the video to reach people and make them feel something so they want to help." "Exactly." And we could add visuals like clips of students studying, working together in classrooms. It shows the real impact, he added, scribbling notes quickly. Their ideas flowed, building on one another, but as they worked, a shadow of doubt slipped back in. Lila hesitated, biting her lip. What if nobody cares? What if we put ourselves out there and fail? Miles stilled for a moment, looking up at her. But what if they do care? If even one person sees our video and decides to help, it's worth it. His confidence and sincerity struck a chord within Lila. She realized that they had to lean into vulnerability, not shy away from it. To ask for help required bravery, but it also ignited hope. You're right, she said, determination building anew. Let us make them see. They spent the next hour drafting a script and listing people they could approach for support. The library transformed into a war room for their cause. As Lila walked home that evening, she felt a surge of excitement, mixed with anxiety. Tomorrow would be crucial. They needed to gather support, but the weight of the unknown pressed on her. Would people rally behind them? Would they be inspired to take action? But just as that thought settled, she spotted a familiar face trudging along the sidewalk, a friend from school. Keith. His expressive eyes caught hers. They always shared laughter, but today, there was something different about him. She called out to him, feeling a spark of inspiration flare back to life. Keith, we need your help with something important. What's up? He replied, curiosity glinting in his expression. Lila took a step closer. It's about our school, we're trying to save it. And we need everyone. As Keith listened, she felt an unexpected rush of confidence. Maybe the community was waiting for someone to light the spark. Despite her fears, all she could think was, what if they could inspire change? What if this is what started something big, something greater than themselves? And then she realized embracing the fear might be the first step, the key to unlocking their path forward. Would they seize this moment? And who else could they inspire along the way? Lila's heart raced as Keith's interest became apparent. His brow furrowed slightly, but she could see the wheels turning in his mind. Saving the school? He repeated, letting the idea marinate. What exactly do you mean? It's a difficult situation, she said. We need to show the community how essential our school is. The funding is tight, and if we don't do something, we might lose it. We're making a video to tell our story, not just ours, but everyone's. We want to rally support for our programs and resources. He nodded, beginning to grasp the scope of their mission. That's huge. But what's in it for them? Why would they care? Lila took a deep breath, struck by the question. Because if they don't care, they'll lose something valuable too. It's not just about us. It's about their kids and their futures. She felt a fire ignite within her. We all deserve a chance to learn and grow. We need to paint a picture that resonates with everyone. A vision of what we can accomplish together. Keith's eyes lit up as the implications sank in. Count me in. You know I'm all for fighting the good fight. What do you need me to do? Lila felt lighter. We need to spread the word, maybe create a press release or something. We can reach out to other students, teachers, anyone with a connection to the community. Each idea felt more hopeful than the last. Let us meet tomorrow and gather everyone we can think of. I'll talk to some friends about the fundraiser opportunity at the basketball game, he suggested, enthusiasm bubbling over. Perfect, Lila said, smiling brightly. This could work. As she walked away from the sidewalk where Keith stood, she felt a renewed sense of energy. Tomorrow was going to be a turning point. The unknown that had shackled her earlier was now infused with possibility. Her mind raced with thoughts of friends, teachers, and parents that might be on board. Every face she pictured in the vibrant school hallways brought a spark of hope. That evening, once home, Lila couldn't wait to pour out her ideas into her phone's notes app. Dreaming big felt right, and with each word she typed, she envisioned her entire community, students with their backs against the wall, teachers who cared passionately, and how they could rise up together. The sun had dipped below the horizon by the time she stopped, and a sense of urgency began to settle into her bones. What if they didn't have enough time? Time was always slipping away after all, and their video needed to be impactful. The next morning, Lila rushed to school, her heart thrumming. She and Miles had agreed to meet in the morning before classes, and she was eager to share her plans for a big outreach effort. She pictured flyers everywhere, social media campaigns igniting conversations. It felt electric. As she entered the building, she noticed Miles waiting at their usual spot. "Hey," he called out, eyes bright. "Ready to take this on?" "Absolutely. I talked to Keith last night and he's in too. We got to get more people involved. The word's gotta spread." He smiled, and Lila could see their shared excitement igniting a fire in them both. But just then, a chilling realization dashed through her head. What if we fail to convince them? What if they don't care? Miles leaned in, a serious look locked onto his face. "Lila, there's no room for doubts. If we don't try, then we've already lost. We can't let that happen." His words rang true, almost like armor against her spinning fears. "You're right. We can't control what others think, but we can show them why this is worth caring about. We have to be brave together." As they set off to gather support, Lila couldn't help but ponder the uncharted waters ahead. Would the community unite behind them? What exactly would it take to inspire everyone? But as they walked, a figure loomed ahead: Mr. Collins, their principal. In that moment, she felt her anxiety rise. What would he think of their plans? Would he support their fight? The questions buzzed in her mind, thick and electric. Could this be the moment they needed to solidify their resolve or even sway someone? In a position of authority, Lila's pulse quickened. What if this was just the beginning of a much bigger journey? She whispered to herself, her thoughts racing. And just as she steeled herself to speak, the bell rang, echoing through the corridor like a countdown to something monumental. What would their next move be, and who else might join them? Lila's heart pounded as she stood in front of Mr. Collins, the principal who had overseen countless graduations and faced countless challenges. She could feel Miles at her side, his presence a grounding force. Taking a breath, she stepped closer, ready to lay it all on the line. "Mr. Collins," she started, her voice firm though the butterflies were fluttering in her stomach. "We're forming a group to save the school. We're going to create a video to show how important our programs are to the community." His expression turned serious. "Saving the school, you say? Do you really think this can make a difference?" She glanced at Miles, who nodded with silent encouragement. "I believe it can. If we rally the community, the LLC school isn't just a building. It's a place where futures are built. We need your support to help us spread the word." Mr. Collins pushed his glasses back up the bridge of his nose, contemplating her words. "And what exactly do you need from me?" "Promotion, guidance, any resources you could spare. We want to reach out to parents, local businesses, teachers, everyone who cares." There was a spark of defiance in her voice. This was the moment they could seize. He studied her closely, and for a long second, Lila felt as if she were on the edge of something vital. Finally, Mr. Collins nodded. "Okay, I'll help you, but you need to understand it's not just about the video. You have to engage the community genuinely." Relief washed over Lila like a warm wave. "We will. We promise." As they walked away, Miles beamed. "Did you see that? Yes, with us." Lila felt lighter, as if the weight of uncertainty had been lifted just a bit. "Now we just need to gather everyone else and make them believe too." They moved through the crowded halls, collecting the faces of every friend and ally they could find. Each conversation fired her up more, igniting their shared passion. They shared ideas about potential content for the video, joyful memories of school events, heartfelt messages from teachers, clips of student performances. They all started to come together like pieces of a jigsaw puzzle. Lila could see it in her mind. The final result would be powerful, a true testament to what their school represented. But doubt still crept in. Would people care enough? Would they really listen? Just as she pushed those thoughts away, she spotted Kelly, who had always been known for her social media presence. "Perfect timing," Lila exclaimed. "We need someone like you to help us get the word out. You could create a buzz online." Kelly cocked her head, intrigued. "I'm in. What's the plan?" Lila quickly shared their vision, excitement bubbling over as she painted the picture of their community, united for a cause. Kelly smiled and began brainstorming ideas for hashtags, catchy phrases, and how they could leverage multiple platforms to spread the message. With each new face that joined their cause, Lila felt a growing tide of hope. But as they prepared for their first group meeting after school to fine-tune their ideas, her mind wandered back to the question that haunted her. What if no one cared enough? Later, during the meeting, Lila looked around at her friends and their eagerness filled her heart. But as she sensed the clock ticking, a nagging feeling mounted. Would it be enough? Suddenly, a text buzzed on her phone, pulling her back into reality. It was from Keith. Just spoke to my uncle and he might be able to donate. He runs a local business. Her heart soared. This was the kind of support they needed. But what if this miracle was overshadowed by a setback waiting to unfold? The thought was both exhilarating and terrifying. Lila took a deep breath, looking at all the faces in the room that were rallying for this dream. Could this be the turning point they needed? Yet even as they plotted their next steps, the pervasive question lingered. Would their efforts actually make a difference, or just fizzle out? And somewhere in the back of her mind, she wondered what sacrifices would they have to make along the way. Lila's mind raced as the meeting wrapped up. Excitement was buzzing in the air, yet a thin layer of anxiety held her back. Everyone was passionate. Everyone was hopeful. But was it enough? As they discussed potential themes for their video, her thoughts drifted back to her own experiences in the school. Memories flooded her. Her first science project, the laughter shared in the cafeteria, and those long nights studying for exams alongside friends. This school was a lifeline, not just for education but for friendships, dreams, and growth. Miles, she called, pulling him aside as the others brainstormed. What if we featured stories from students talking about what this school means to them? Could add a personal touch. He nodded, eyes sparkling with agreement. Yes, we could show how the programs have impacted our lives, inspired us to pursue our goals. Like your art club, everyone loves those murals. Lila beamed, recalling the hours spent painting and how those murals brightened the drab walls of their school. Exactly, and we can ask teachers to share their experiences too. They've dedicated their lives to us. It'll really drive home how much our community has invested here. Let us start collecting those stories. Then Miles replied, always filled with eagerness. Lila smiled, feeling her heart lift. Felt right. They were onto something special. As classes ended for the day, the two of them walked down the emptying hall, still buzzing from the meeting. Just when she thought things couldn't get more overwhelming, her phone buzzed again. This time it was a message from Kelly. Got a meeting set up with the local paper. They want to hear about our project. This could really get the word out. Wow, we have to get our ideas ready, Lila said, biting her lip. Though excitement flared within her, doubt often followed closely behind. What if they turn us down? She confessed, her voice suddenly heavy with worry. If they do, so what? Miles countered, his voice steadier than hers. We don't need them to believe in us for this to matter. We're already making a difference by caring. She looked at him, feeling buoyed by his conviction, but the weight of possibility felt daunting. What if they poured their hearts into this only for it to come to nothing? Days passed, and as the group continued to plan, Lila noticed something shifting. More students were rallying behind them. They started building a website, even organizing a bake sale to fund the project. Community involvement was snowballing, and it felt incredible. Then, as they were busy prepping for the video, something unexpected happened. Mr. Collins called another meeting and handed them a flyer featuring their initiative. I believe in your mission, he said, and for Lila, those simple words meant the world. But that night, as she lay in bed, she still couldn't shake the nagging question. If this didn't work, what would it mean for everyone who had poured themselves into it? Just when she thought she could drift into sleep, another text came through. It was from Keith again. There's an opportunity for a big sponsorship, but we have to present in front of a board next week. They want to see why our school matters. Lila's breath caught in her throat. This could be their moment, the one that defined everything. But the weight of the stakes hung heavily on her heart. Would she be able to carry this burden? Would they be able to rise to the challenge together? And in that silence, she wondered, what if the success of their dream hinged on the courage of her heart? A sense of urgency filled Lila as the week rolled on. Every passing moment felt like a ticking clock. The presentation loomed larger in her mind, overshadowing everything else. She could hardly focus in class. Her thoughts were consumed by the weight of their project. It felt less like a simple video and more like a lifeline for their school and for herself. On the second day leading up to the presentation, Lila and Miles gathered with their team in the library. The atmosphere buzzed with creativity and palpable nervousness. Posters were strewn about, and laptops blinked with endless tabs. They were tight on time but full of ideas. Each voice rose in excitement as they crafted their story. I want to share about the science club and how it opened my eyes to new possibilities, a girl named Zara announced, her fingers tapping nervously on the table. That's perfect, Miles exclaimed. We need to show the diverse experiences here what the school means to everyone. Lila wanted to ride that wave of encouragement, but a flicker of doubt crept into her heart. What if they stumbled or forgot their lines? What if the board's eyes glazed over and they lost their chance? As the hours drifted away, the group decided to take a break. They stepped outside, the crisp air hitting their faces. Lila could see the autumn leaves falling, swirling in dance as they crunched underfoot. It was beautiful and serene, but far too fleeting. Miles nudged her, pulling her thoughts back. You okay? Yeah, just thinking, she admitted. What if we fail? What if this means everything to everyone and we can't deliver? Then we learn from it, he said firmly, but his gaze softened. But we can't let fear hold us back. Remember why we started this. To show how much this school means to us. She nodded, blinking back sudden tears. The honesty in his voice moved her. It was a small reminder that they weren't just fighting for recognition, but for every student who walked those halls and for every story waiting to be told. Later that week, the day arrived, and the air felt thick with anticipation. The presentation room was buzzing with people. Facing the board of stern-looking adults, Lila felt small but steeled herself. This was it. This was her moment to prove that their school was more than just a building, it was a community. They took turns sharing their stories, each voice rising in courage, recounting memories filled with laughter, discoveries, setbacks, and triumphs. Lila watched as the board took notes and nodded along, their expressions shifting from ambivalence to engagement. Maybe they were starting to see what Lila had always felt. Then it was her turn. Heart pounding, she stepped forward. She opened with a story of her journey through the art club, expressing how it had shaped her into who she was today. As she spoke, her voice quivered, but conviction pushed her through. She could see the spark of recognition in some of the board members' eyes, and it fueled her resolve. Every mural we paint here means something to someone. It's not just paint on the wall. It's hope, it's dreams, it's us. She waved her hand toward the team, and the energy in the room shifted. When she finished, silence filled the air for a moment, and she could hardly breathe. What if they didn't respond? What if they didn't take care? Then, the head of the board, a woman with a sharp gaze, leaned forward. What you all have shown us today is the heart of education. You have made a compelling case for why your school matters. Lila's heart soared, but as the applause erupted around them, another thought anchored her. What if the support they were receiving faded quickly? The crowd behind her started cheering, but she felt a sinking sadness, a fear of the moment slipping away too soon. Just as they prepared to leave, the head of the board spoke up again, her voice steady. We'll reach out to you soon regarding sponsorship, but let me ask you this. How do you plan to keep this momentum alive? Lila froze, realizing that this was just the beginning. They had to keep fighting, to keep believing. Could they maintain this energy and grow it into something even bigger? As she stepped down from the stage, a chill ran down her spine. It wasn't over, not by a long shot. She had ignited something within the school, but could they all handle the responsibility of what lay ahead? Her mind buzzed with possibilities and challenges that stretched far beyond that day. And in that swirl of confusion and anticipation, she knew one thing. The journey of this project had only just begun. The next few days passed in a whirlwind. Lila's heart raced with excitement and anxiety. The board had made their decision, but the journey was far from over. She and Miles were determined to keep the momentum alive, to turn their fight into a movement that echoed through the community like a rallying cry. The sun glimmered down on Maplewood as they gathered in the park, a community meeting leading the way to their next steps. Friends and allies filled the grassy area with purposeful energy. Around them, laughter mixed with anticipation, but Lila felt it the weight of responsibility heavy on her shoulders. Together, we proved we can make a difference. Miles spoke, his voice steady, ready to lift them all. But this is just the start. We need to harness this energy and make sure our voices don't fade away. Lila looked around, taking in the faces of her friends, classmates, and teachers, each one representing a thread of their collective story. She stepped forward, taking a deep breath. We've fought for our future. Now it's time to build it. We will organize events, workshops, and continue to share our stories through art, video, and anything we can create. We'll show everyone how important our school is. Cheers erupted, and her heart soared. It was happening. This moment, this awakening felt vibrant, warm, like sunlight breaking through dark clouds. Their mission was clear, their passion ignited. But lurking underneath was a whisper of doubt. Would they be able to sustain it? As days turned into weeks, Lila, Miles, and their friends began planning fundraisers that turned the school into a hub of artistic expression. Each event sparked creativity, uniting their community. She watched as the gym filled with laughter during bake sales, parents connecting during art fairs, and local businesses donating supplies and sponsorships in a wave of support. But just as things seemed to be falling into place, a letter arrived for Lila. It was from the school board. Her stomach turned as she carefully opened the envelope. "You must understand, Lila," it read. "While we appreciate your efforts, further funding is not guaranteed. The school budget remains tight, and we must be realistic." The room spun around her as a chill gripped her heart. "No," she gasped. "Not again." Miles, who had been working late on plans, sensed her distress and rushed to her side. "What's wrong?" Lila held the letter, her hands trembling. "They're saying it might not be enough, that we might still lose everything." Miles read the words, the resolve on his face hardening. "We can't let this stop us. This is our home. We'll fight harder." Tears filled Lila's eyes, but she drew strength from his unwavering determination. "But how? What more can we do?" His bright blue eyes lit up with inspiration. "Let us host a community showcase. Everyone can share their stories and art at the event. Students, teachers, families. We'll invite the school board too. They need to see the heart of what we're trying to protect." As they put their heads together, Lila felt hope rising anew. They set to work, sending out flyers, posting online, reaching out to local media. It was a race against time, but they were determined to unite the community in an explosion of creativity and passion. The day of the showcase arrived with all the anticipation of uncharted territory. The school buzzed with life. It was a vibrant tapestry of shared stories coming to life. Students showcased their art, performed skits, and recited poems that echoed the message of their mission. Parents and teachers filled the seats, along with members of the community, faces eager to participate and learn. Lila felt her heart swell as she took the stage. She looked out over the crowd, full of support, gratitude washing over her. "This isn't just about saving our school. It's about every single one of us, our dreams, our families, and our futures. Together, we can make the noise that won't be ignored." As applause roared, smiles, laughter, and camaraderie filled the air. Lila glanced at Miles standing proudly by her side. In this moment they were bricks in a fierce wall of determination, holding one another up. When the last performance ended, anticipation buzzed through the air as Mr. Collins stood to speak. His expression had shifted from skepticism to admiration. "What you've shown us today is more than impressive. It's inspiring. You've all come together in a way that reminds me of what education truly is. I promise we will advocate for your continued support. This school matters. You matter." Relief surged through Lila like waves crashing on the shore. In the embrace of the community, she realized they had achieved something profound. No matter what challenges lay ahead, they had forged bonds and lit fires of hope that would carry them into the future as laughter and celebration filled the gym. It suddenly struck her none of this would have been possible without her choice to fight for her dreams, alongside friends who believed just as fiercely. Together, Lila whispered to Miles, "We transformed our fears into strength." His smile radiated pride, "And we'll keep pushing forward." In that blend of joy and possibility, Lila allowed herself to dream. Their collective voice was more than a whisper. It was a call to action that no one could ignore. And as the evening sun dipped below the horizon, Lila knew one thing for certain. Together, they had built a foundation of hope strong enough to carry them all forward. Don't wait another moment. Subscribe immediately to the channel so you won't miss exclusive stories like this one. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and show your support. Every click counts. Comment your feelings about this transformation and share your reactions to the ending. And please, share this video instantly with at least 5 friends who need to hear about the power of change. This is the moment to make a difference. And only true fans understand the importance of supporting the channel through these actions.